Okay, you're recording.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I've got my team here that's going to help us share about our KC Regional that we had a few weeks ago. I have Rihanna Sanford and then Kim Cook, frontline to me, and then Tiffany Rutherford. She is frontline to Rihanna. And so we're going to be sharing a little bit. And we had Dr. David Phillips. He was our main speaker on Friday night, kind of keynote speaker. And he really is the science guy. He really enjoys the science that we have behind Juice Plus. And he talked about just really how solid our research is. So you guys really feel comfortable knowing that we really have top-notch research, because he actually said he sat on a peer-reviewed panel, and just the quality of our research is really second to none. So just feel comfortable in knowing that. So that's kind of what I wanted to kick off with him. And Kim Cook, if you could share about the mission-driven model and then how you're applying it, that would be awesome.
Okay. Hi, guys. All right. So I gotta say, when Shelley Mackey came up and was going to do the mission-driven model, I kind of went, oh, okay, we're doing mission-driven model again. But I thought, oh, well, whatever, there's always something to learn, right? Okay, well, wow. All I can say is she opened a whole new world, a whole new level of stuff for me. Because as she started going through the mission-driven model, I just kept going, holy cow, I had no idea that all that stuff was there. I don't know how many of you have been to the mission-driven model, spent a little time there. I'm spending more and more time there because there is so much information out there, and honestly, I didn't even know it was there. I know it was sort of suggested to me when I started in this business to go there, and and it was kind of like, well, you can do it all at once, or you can do it, just a little at a time. And that wasn't one of those things at the beginning that I did go in a little bit, but I didn't really delve in, and they've done a lot of updating and changing to it over the last several months as well. So I just wanted to share that how many of you get a new rep and you have kind of no idea what to do with them? You're like, holy cow, yay, I got a new rep, but now what, right? Because that's really when the work starts. So go to the mission-driven model. Under the getting started, there's like 5 different areas on it. Getting started, there's a getting started checklist. Literally, you can print it off and go through it with your rep. These are the steps you're going to take to get them started. It can't be any easier than that, right? There's fast track information and a points chart. Those are very basic things that we all need, because the first thing we want to do, right, is get our rep to their HLP, and that gives them, their points chart and all that stuff. So that's a really great place to start. There's a living the mission. Now, it didn't use, before we had Healthy Living Revolution and Shred 10, it was pretty much Inspiring Healthy Living, right? Well, now under Living the Mission, they have the Healthy Living Revolution stuff. They have Shred 10 information. All of these resources in one place. And Shelley said, it's like a one-stop shop, and it is. So this week I was actually looking. I had a rep who was getting close to fast tracking, but I had no idea how to figure out how many points they had, right, easily. And so I started, of course, what I always do, which is go to my upline and go, hey, how do I find this, right? And they're like, well, this is how I do it, but I think there's an easier way. And then it hit me, wait a minute, go to Mission Driven Model. And oh my goodness, it's right there. There are videos under building your team, and under the marketing plan icon, there's a virtual office, and you click on that virtual office, and there's all kinds of how-to videos. How to put in order, how to set up your direct deposit, how to run reports. So all of these crazy things that we automatically should know, right? But we don't. and they're right there. So how empowering is that, especially not only for us, but for our new people to have all this information at their fingertips, right? So I would encourage you, because yeah, there's building your own customer base. Oh my gosh. If you want to figure that out, there is everything in there, from social media, message listing, events, Healthy Living Revolution, Shred 10, how to do a vendor table if you're doing booths, follow-up, order forms, how to online order. There's an amazing memory jogger there. Are you having trouble figuring out who to talk to? Print off the memory jogger. Oh my, that gives you a great place. There's a prospect profile, a daily method of operation planner, organizational workshop. There's so much stuff there. We just have to use it. There's also creating a best customer experience, which has everything from customer profile to Facebook groups and events, Tower Garden customer care, Shred 10 customer care, customer care ideas, and how, raving fan customers, monthly inspirations. There's just so many resources that they have put out there for us, because they want us to grow. And all we have to do is go to that website. Okay? So I promise it's time well spent, and I have been spending more time there because and it's amazing every time I get in there, and I kind of don't know where to start, so I just click on one thing and then I start in. But you guys spend some time there. It is time well spent, and it's going to be time well spent for your new people, because it's training that you don't even have to do, right? You just train them to go there, and they have so many resources right at their fingertips.
All right. Awesome, Kim. And you're right. Shelley kept saying one-stop shopping, and you guys, it truly is.
Yeah.
If we go there, and because sometimes I have felt like, okay, I have a little bit over here, a little bit over here. It's all in one place. So when we have, new people joining us, boy, we can sit down with them, or we don't even have to sit down with them. Like Kim said, you can basically just send them there and just say, use that as part of your time in learning what we're doing, and walk through the mission-driven.
We're doing a business that, many jobs you go through a 4-year college degree, you spend time, right? You spend time training and learning. Well, this is time that needs to be spent in our training and learning for our own business.
Right. Excellent point. Because that is our training. Yeah.
Yes.
And they've really expanded that mission-driven model. Because I was like you, when they first said they were doing mission-driven model, I thought, oh, great. But they have expanded it so much more for us,
Yes, so it's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm truly thankful for that, because it is an amazing resource.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kim. Mm-hmm. And Rihanna, I know, actually I want to call you Janice because it says Janice under your name.
I'm just Janice for the moment.
For the moment, yeah. So if you could share with us about Dr. Phillips, I know you wanted to share some things from his talk on Saturday morning.
Yeah, and so his talk from Saturday morning was titled, what was it? Something from the Joctor or something.
Ask a Joctor?
Ask a Joctor or something like that, because he's a jock and he's a doctor. Little play on words there, but it was very informative, and I felt like I was writing like lightning. I just was writing so fast, trying to catch everything. And I took pictures too, so I have it in a couple different places. I was just trying to get as much as I could. Because sometimes I don't ever get to the pictures when I take pictures, but if I write it down, there's, for whatever reason, just a better chance that I'll see them again. So anyway, I just wanted to share some of the facts that he shared, some of the frequently asked questions that he finds himself answering quite a bit. And he kind of started with just, basically the need and the percentage of Americans that barely get even 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. And he said 87% barely even get 2 to 3 servings, So the importance of Juice Plus, and he said that it has a high ORAC value that quenches free radicals. So, and of course, we know from the research that it indeed does that, and indeed does reduce oxidative stress. So, so anyway, that's really great. That was cool to hear how many people actually really do need Juice Plus, and we know it's pretty much for everybody. And then he asked, he said the question about blood thinners, and a lot of people, I've had people ask me if they're on blood thinners, mainly Coumadin, which is like the main one that we hear of. Is it okay to be on Juice Plus because there's vitamin K in spinach, and they know that there's spinach in the garden capsule. And he did a really good comparison with 2 cups of spinach. So 2 cups of raw spinach has about 300 micrograms of vitamin K in it. Well, the garden capsule serving, which is 2 garden capsules, only has about 10 micrograms of vitamin K in it. So absolutely, yes, there's no concern with vitamin K. People getting too much vitamin K if they're on Coumadin. And then he went into kidney stones, and is there too much oxalate in Juice Plus? Because I guess there's a concern with oxalate in Juice Plus for people who have kidney stones. And he used again the 2 cups of raw spinach comparison with Juice Plus, and 2 cups of raw spinach has 656 milligrams of oxalate, and Juice Plus only has 20 milligrams. So again, if doctors aren't telling their patients to not eat 2 cups of raw spinach, then there really shouldn't be a problem with, what's in Juice Plus. Diabetes, he went through and he compared the amount of sugar that's in the Juice Plus capsules, which is 0. There's no sugar in the Juice Plus capsules. 6 grams of sugar in the chews, and 10 to 11 grams of sugar in the complete. But we know that the complete it doesn't spike your blood sugar and actually helps to balance your blood sugar. And even with complete having 10 to 11 grams of sugar, it still doesn't have as much sugar as an apple does. So an apple has 19 grams of sugar compared to, in Juice Plus, the highest amount is 10 to 11 grams of sugar. So again, yes, that your sugar shouldn't be a problem, or you should not worry about your sugar spiking if you're taking Juice Plus. Kidney dialysis and potassium in Juice Plus. There was a question about that, and if there's too much, there's a concern with too much potassium if you're on kidney dialysis. And he said you're supposed to get about 2,000 to 3,000 potassium a day if you're on kidney dialysis. And there is about 167 milligrams of potassium inside of raw spinach, and Juice Plus has less than 70 milligrams. So again, there no concern with there being too much. And then he went into, does the complete protein shakes have too much sodium? Because people might sometimes look at the sodium and be like, is that kind of high? And he said that the complete only has about 10% of the daily recommended value of sodium for the day. So again, no concern there. And then he went into pregnant women and what's recommended for them in the way of folic acid. And he said it's recommended that pregnant women have about 400 micrograms of folic acid on a daily basis. And he said that if a pregnant woman were to take 3 caps of the garden, 3 capsules of the orchard, that then would give them 475 micrograms of folate. So, and sometimes, I don't know if you guys have done this, but I've told pregnant women to feel free to take more than just the 2 capsules, just because, there's 2 people, that they're concentrating on. And so they're saying actually if you take 3 capsules of the orchard and the garden, you actually will have enough folate, which is a really important thing that I know is important for baby's brain, was it the neural stem or something like that. And so, and then there was the question that was really, I know I've had people ask me this, other than Juice Plus, what else should I take? In other words, and what other supplements should I take other than Juice Plus? And he said, there's not a whole lot of other things, but he did have a few things. And he said B12, especially for strict vegans, because they're not eating meat and things of that nature. And that's something you usually find B12 in salmon, eggs, sardines. But if you're a vegan, he highly recommends you be on a B12 supplement. He said vitamin D, because we get most of our vitamin D from the sunshine. But you can also get it from liver, eggs, and sardines. And most of the time, people's vitamin D is either too low or too high. And so, but that was something to help people to regulate. And of course, we know we've got some vitamin D in our protein shakes, and they're complete now. And so, excuse me. So that's always good to know. There's omega-3s. He said he recommends the omega-3. And of course, we're waiting patiently for our omega-3 supplement that will have omega-3, 6, 7, and 9. But you can find omega-3 in wild-caught salmon, krill, oil, and walnuts, he said. So these are just some other things to kind of keep in mind when you're wondering, like, what is Juice Plus not giving me enough of? And so these are some of the things. And then he said a probiotic, just for healthy bacteria in the gut, a good probiotic. So those were cool answers. Then he kind of went into, and every time I've heard him speak, I've heard him bring up the whole topic of soy and man boobs, and the concern of if males will get man boobs if they drink too much soy protein, or if they have too much soy. And he said there's no well-designed study that can prove that theory. And he doesn't even really take a lot of time to talk about that, because it's just so ridiculous, I guess, in his eyes, that people are actually really thinking that, especially when you think about Asians and how most of their diet is a soy diet, and they're not walking around with a whole bunch of man boobs. The other thing is the concern for breast cancer in soy. And this is always really interesting to me. I can listen to somebody talk about this more and more, because breast cancer is such a such a horrible, epidemic in our country. But that soy is a phytoestrogen, and phytoestrogens actually have what's called a SERM. I forgot what the SERM stands for, but it's a blocker that actually lowers the risk of breast cancer, because it blocks the effects of estrogen, instead of like what the opposite of what people are thinking, if they just get estrogen like from a unnatural source or whatever, that's not a plant estrogen and doesn't have those blockers in it. So anyway, in a lot of the studies, and in the ovarian cancer one that they did with the Complete 2, they were able to find that that soy actually has kind of helped to decrease the risk of breast cancer and the reoccurrence of breast cancer in a lot of the patients within the study. So that's something that I've heard him say before, but it's always cool to hear over and over and over again, especially when people bring up soy and the concern for soy. He talked briefly about the juice.
That's money.
Off mute, I think. They talked about the Juice Plus athletes and about how much should they take. And he said when they did the COBRA study, which is the Australian military, some kind of branch of the Australian military, they did a study on, and they said that they tested them on 3 of each blend of the capsules, and saw the really great, I guess, results there. So that was 3 of each blend. And he says at least a minimum of 3 of each blend is what he would recommend for athletes. And then just lastly, I'll kind of close with just the talk on Juice Plus funding their research, and how sometimes people look at that and say, where they're paying for the outcome. And he says, first of all, let's just talk about, if Juice Plus doesn't fork out money for the research to be done, who will? So that should not be a concern for people. That's just Juice Plus trying to, putting the money out to put their product to the test. And he says Juice Plus never pays researchers or the institutions. They pay for the product that they provide for the institutions and the researchers to do the testing on it. They only do human-based studies, not animal studies. That was one thing too that he mentioned is really important to remember about the studies that have been done on soy that people kind of started getting like up in arms about, that those were studies being done on mice models that came up with some not really great, I guess, results when it came to soy. But they found that mice models actually, the balance of how they take in the phytoestrogens and the isoflavones or whatever is different than how humans do. So it's really important to make sure that when we're looking at studies that we're looking at human-based studies. They are primary versus borrowed studies, which just means we don't borrow studies from anybody. They're directly done from the institution on the Juice Plus product itself. And then I wrote down in the impact factor is a valued number based on the number of studies journaled and published. Most have only 3 or 4 points of the impact factor, and Juice Plus has over 100. So that's pretty significant that Juice Plus carries that much of a value in the research world, and that their studies actually carry that much weight, even in the scientific world. The things that are coming that he says will blow Juice Plus up are the studies that are on the microbiome and the epigenetics studies that are coming that will really, really just blow people's minds. And if you're not a Juice Plus rep at that time, you might want to become one.
Awesome, Rihanna. Thank you so much. That was a very thorough job. He talked about a lot of stuff, and I agree. I think soy is a hot button for a lot of us. So he talked about that. One thing that I wanted to add, he talked about some stories. And I know on Saturday morning he talked about one where they had a football player that was a customer of theirs. He was leery about the soy. Wasn't sure about that, just like, I'm trying to be this big athlete and all of this. He went ahead and decided to start taking the Complete. If I remember correctly, he was already on the capsules. And he started the Complete, and he got an injury. And he was out of course for a while. Do you remember I don't remember exactly what type of injury.
I don't either, but I just remember he said he was able to come back pretty quickly before the season was up and help them win a championship or something like that.
Yes, he said this type of injury, whatever it was, for most people, they would have been out the entire season. And the fact that he came back, he said, was huge. Mm-hmm. So that's, he's got a lot of cool stories too. So that just really helps support what we have here with Juice Plus. So again, Rihanna, thank you. Thanks for sharing. You did a great job. Is Tiffany, there she is. Are you ready to talk about our panel? We had a corporate and building your belief with a panel of 3 guys. And I don't know, Tiffany, obviously if you're speaking about them, they impacted you kind of like they did me. I was blown away just by hearing guys, speak. So if you could talk to us a little bit about this panel, that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay, so these guys got up, and I don't remember their ages or their names, but they were really, really incredible. And they gave advice as to like what our spouses can do, because it's usually women building the business, but what our husbands can do to help support us. And number 1 was take the product, which I thought was pretty good, because a lot of times our husbands are the most skeptical, and we tend to believe in it more than they do, at least initially. And so, but that's how they can support us, is take the product. Number 2 is to help out with events, like help planning events. And this one I loved. Number 3, they can help out by respecting you, knowing that this is a real business. And number 4, offer moral support, especially when we want to quit, because we all have those days, when we just don't want to do this anymore. We keep hearing no's and we get discouraged, and that's one of the biggest things, is they can be there for moral support for us when we want to quit. And then number 5, another one of my favorites, help out around the house. I think it was funny. I think it was Shelley Mackey who said that NMD doesn't always necessarily mean National Marketing Director. It also means no more dinners. for some. So, and I shared that with my husband. He laughed a little bit. He wasn't very fond of that. But it's true. They since we're building this business together, you know, it's helpful when they're supportive of us, and that's how we can tell them to be supportive of us, and we need to be open, both sides, both husband and wife, be open about how we're feeling and where we want to go with this business, and be flexible and work with each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I'm not really very strong with like computer stuff and online stuff, but Nathan is. And so that's where he can come in and help out. You know, he's not very comfortable with talking a whole lot of people. That's my job, you know, like it's really great. So we kind of bounce each other, you know, bounce ideas off each other and things like that. But I've never actually truly thought it to ask his opinion about how I should run events, or, you know, how I should, or what kind of events I should do and things like that. I mean, I've told him this is what I'm thinking, and he's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. But I've never actually asked him things like that. So I thought that was really a good idea, kind of an eye-opener for me. Ask for Nathan's perspective on things regarding the details of how to work the business. So that was a good one. And anyway, and then one of the other things that they said, and I absolutely love this. The guy, his name was Frank. And he sat there with tears in his eyes, and he said, where would you be today if the person that shared Juice Plus with you hadn't shared it with you? Think about that every time you get afraid, every time you don't want to talk to somebody, every time you think, oh, they'll just think I'm crazy or whatever. Where would you be if that person hadn't shared Juice Plus with you? That was, to me, the most impactful statement of like the whole weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing. You know, one of the guys that shared that, it was Fred. I think he had just turned 65 years old. Yeah. He was so precious. I felt like he got really emotional when he shared his story. Mm-hmm. And because he had to pause a little bit. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, just when I start sharing my story, it makes me, kind of takes me to a dark place a little bit. And so he talked about I think he had like, I want to say like 5 back surgeries. It was several back surgeries that he had and different things that had happened. He had lupus, and Juice Plus helped all of that. So it was just really impactful hearing guys. So thank you for sharing your thoughts from all that. That was amazing. Thank you. We also had a session where we had 3 ladies share their Shred 10 stories. And hopefully you guys all saw in the chat, I put Rihanna. She was one of them that shared her, I always say your skirt fall to your, you know, shoes story. That one, she did it on, I guess she did a YouTube video on it or whatever. So we have that one recorded. So I thought I'd put that one in there so you could hear a full one. And excuse me, the 2 other ladies that shared, one of the gals, she said, and I just think this is neat to hear other people's perspective, other reps' stories about the Shred 10, what they've experienced, so that we can pass that along to others that are shredding. But the one gal, she made the comment that, you know, she didn't notice anything for maybe the first couple 3 times. And then she did start losing, you know, drop some weight. I think she dropped like 20 or 30 pounds. That was one thing that she noticed by being on the Shred multiple times. And then there was this other lady. She's a precious lady. She's a little bit older lady. But she said, I did not have a very good experience on the Shred. And we were like, oh, you know, it was really quiet in the room. And everybody was just hanging on her every word as she was speaking. And she had tried something, I think, through a chiropractor's office, and her body was not reacting well to it. So she had to stop it. And so even with the Shred 10, she said her body was not reacting well to it. She figured out her body was extremely toxic. And so that's why she was having so many issues with the Shred 10. And I was like, I didn't even realize, you know, or think about that. But that was really, really impactful and helpful to me to know that there's some people that maybe they're not having a good experience. So we know why, and we're able to help them. You know, maybe they don't, you know, do the Shred 10 as full on as some other people would. They could back off a little bit. but she said she just stuck with it. She just like, I'm going to power through this. I'm going to power through this. Even though, bless her heart, she didn't feel well. She didn't feel good at all doing it. And just in February, the first part of February, she finally started seeing some results from the Shred 10. So, everybody's clapping, and it was really impactful hearing that. So that was one thing that was really awesome to hear. And then we had some people, we had 4 ladies actually wrap up. It's like the road to Anaheim. And I wanted to share just a few takeaways from them. Some of these were from AJ, I think AJ Myers or Majors. Can't remember her last name for sure, sorry. She is on Ali Schneider's team. And they were just talking about we get to do the things that we want to do because of our flexibility. They talked about how they like to travel. Well, Ali Schneider's husband, he is the women's coach here at KU for the ladies basketball team. Her and her boys travel an awful lot with the team, so they get to do that because of the flexibility that she has. And she hasn't always had that in other jobs that she's done, but now she gets to. And she also talks about, she homeschools her kids, but she said they really call it travel school because they're not at home very much. They're out, with their husband. So, and also she said she feels like she's a wife with a life because of this, what she gets to do. And how about this one? If you want to raise next month, talk to more people. And Ali also talked about she got to be present with her dad. He was sick last year. And so we talked about, you get to be flexible and do the things you want to do. Well, she wanted to be there. She wanted to be present with him even during that situation. And with what she's doing with Juice Plus, it allowed her to do that. So that was all just really powerful. A few tears there shed by her too as she was talking about that. And then how about this one? They talked about it's kind of selfish of us not to share with others. We need to get over ourselves and share with other people. We're the messenger, right? So we need to share with people, let them decide if it's, if they want to take a peek at what we're doing mission-wise, or if they want to look at the product. And then they also talked about, where they actually played this, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but it's always powerful. It's Jim Rohn, and it was the law of sowing and reaping. And so hopefully you guys have heard that before. But it's always, he's talking about, what about this person? Why did they? Don't sign up for that class. What about that? Don't sign up for that class. So it's a good reminder about how somebody does step away from the business and, oh, you really want them in with you and all of that. Don't go chasing them because that takes you out of the field. So just another great reminder. So that basically kind of wraps up our regional. We started at about 8:30 in the morning and we adjourned around 1 or so. So we kind of have a shortened time. It's not a full day. But we had, it was jam-packed with amazing speakers and a lot of great takeaways. So that pretty much wraps it up. Does anybody have any questions for us that we could answer or try to answer at least?
I just had one, Brenda. I wasn't able to write down the definition for the impact factor. Do any of you have those in your notes?
When I heard like the definition of the impact factor, it kind of meant the number of times that like Juice Plus is mentioned in the research journals.
Okay.
And so when he said like Juice Plus was 100, that meant Juice Plus was talked about 100 times in those research journals.
Got it. Thank you.
Help? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, to me, the research for him is extremely important. And when he talks about this, I'm like, okay, that just drives it further for me, what we have with Juice Plus and how we really are set apart from what other people have. I mean, and plus there's a supplement, we have food, there's that difference to begin with, but then the research, it's just another, step above what other people have. So great question.
Thanks.
Yeah. How about anybody else? Stacy, do you have anything? She's probably cooking dinner. So Well, if not, and I guess, I don't know if Rihanna can come back to shut us off, but I guess if not, when we get off, that'll do it, won't it? All right, Tiffany, any last words?
Well, for me, it was just one thing that Laura Dorsey said, and it really convicted me, actually, because she said, you're doing a disservice to people if you don't do the shred, because you're keeping them from it. And I did not like hearing that. I really did not. I thought, because, we can talk about it, and I can share videos and blah, blah, blah. But if I'm not doing it and I don't have my own shred story, that's not okay. I'm keeping people from it. So that was really impactful for me. So I'm super excited to do the shred again tomorrow. I mean, I've done shreds before, but it was just another kick in the pants, that you need sometimes.
You know what? I'm glad.
Another one of the takeaways.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that, because we always talk about we need to be a product of the product. Well, they talked about you need to be a product of the program, because now we have the Shred 10 program. So exactly, we need to be a product of that. Just so like this precious lady that could share, she wasn't having a good experience. And why? We have some of those tucked away in our tool belts now. We can share our own, because I met with a lady on Friday. She wanted to, know some of my experiences. And it could be like, if we haven't done it, we're saying, oh, here's this program. Well, what have you noticed? Well, I haven't done it, That really takes a lot of air out of the balloon, so to speak, because we're not showing that we're supportive of it if we don't do it ourselves and build up our own beliefs. So, great point. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, we will sign off of here, and you ladies all have a great evening. Thanks for getting on.
Thank you, Brenda. Y'all did great.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye, Cindy.
Bye. Good job.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.